everyone. Happy Friday. Hello, welcome back to the 18th edition of Lunch and Learn, special HR and People Analytics here on LinkedIn Live. The place to be when you are HR leaders, innovators, futurists, shaping the future of work. I'm Nicolas Bebani. For those who don't know me, I'm LinkedIn Top Voice. I'm thrilled you are joining us today around the world. And whether you are turning in from your home office, you are taking in your workplace a lunch break or breakfast break, so welcome. We are exactly the right spot to fuel both on your mind and your career about future of work. Today's session tackles a question at the heart of modern leadership, manager as a AI coach, the new role of leadership in a tech-augmented workplace. Before we dive in, as usual, I would like to welcome back George Kemish. Well, hi, George. How are you?
Hello, everybody. Yes, I'm fine. Could do with some better weather. If anybody likes to send some sunshine to us, it'd be great.
Absolutely. And that's the reason why I'm invited a person that is living, in south of Europe. Um, Today, I'm Isabella Brusati. She's a good, first of all, good afternoon. Good afternoon or good morning for you, Isabella?
Well, it's actually 12:30, so it's the same time as Paris and 1 hour actually ahead of the UK. So you can choose.
Okay, good. Welcome to the show, Isabella, and I'm
Thank
glad to
you.
have you today. Isabella she's the change management expert, executive coach, CEO of Isabella Brusati and Associate, your name. With more than 20 years of experience, she has helped countless of organizations succeed in implementing complex change initiatives. A quick note, if you miss anything, don't worry, this session will be recorded and it will be available later on my YouTube channel that I will post after this event. Before we dive in, let's see who and it will be good, to drop your location in the comments because me, I'm coming from Paris. George, of course, from UK. Isabella from Italy. And I would like, to know what is, usually we have people around the world joining us, Isabella. So it will be good also to look at, the people where they are coming from. So I would like, to go directly to the topic of today and discuss about uh, the managers. We are living in the moment where 10% of the global population already use ChatGPT daily. It means around, based upon the latest statistic, 800 million users per week. AI is reshaping entry-level jobs, decision-making, and even how teams learn. Employees are asking for trust, recognition, and purpose more than ever. So, what happens to the traditional supervisor role of the manager? Is it fading away or evolving into something far more impactful? Imagine a manager, not just a task overseer, but as an AI coach, as a co-thinker, and the human connector who amplifies performance in a tech-driven world. That's exactly what we will explore today with Isabella. And we will look at how this role has evolved during these days. Isabella, the first, I would like to share your slide because you have shared with me your slide about manager and is your thoughts manager as a AI coach, as a supervisor moving to copilot and co-thinker. I will let you explain, but what do you think? What you see the role of managers today?
Well, I think that the role of the manager today actually is evolving. And in fact, what managers have traditionally been, as you said, are more like team leader, coordinators. And we are entering a new era of leadership. And that's because of how technology has evolved. Because typically technology was seen as a tool. So if we will go back to, for example, email, they revolutionized the way that managers communicate with people. If we look at, for example, search engines like for Google, they have revolutionized how people can access information, but it's always been basically the manager that consider technology as a tool. Things have changed completely since what it was November 2022 when ChatGPT came into place. Because for the first time, managers could actually co-create with technology. Whilst before it was more like a tool that could help them, for example, simplifying or going with the automation of information. Now the manager can actually interact with AI. And they can also, you don't need to be a coder. You can, AI can recognize the voice. AI can recognize, for example, videos. And it's actually crucial because now AI can help the manager also with problem solving. During meeting, for example, it's possible to use AI to identify some bias, group thinking, or actually asking some probing questions that could literally change the course of a conversation. So definitely, let's say that there are great opportunities, yet there are still managers that use AI, as I say, as Google, which is actually not the way to make the best out of it. But we will talk about how to basically leverage AI in the best possible way.
Absolutely. Absolutely. No, I really like, the fact that they, and how do you see this, chain of copilot, supervisor, copilot, co-thinker? Is it, done, do you think that is very quick in the lapse of time? Is it, quick to move from a supervisor to copilot to co-thinker? Is it, how do you think that it will be evolved?
Again, it's a mindset shift, so it's a cultural change, and change does take time. So there are some people that are basically innovators that are already on board. So they go, oh, wow, they got a new toy, let's say, let's go and let's have a look at how it works. We then have the early adopters that are like, okay, let's give it a shot. So they are sort of dipping their toe more into what is the co-pilot. So basically co-pilot means that AI help them automating some tasks, help them, for example, summarizing tons of information. And there are some early adopters that have already gone the next step, which is the co-thinker. So actually leveraging AI as a sparring partner. So literally they talk to AI, they ask questions and they interact with AI. However, from what I could gather from my own experience, but also from research, most managers are still dipping their toe into the co-pilot. So basically, AI still as a tool to automate and free up some of their time. It's going to take, it's not going to be basically overnight. I also think that it depends on the function of the manager. So, for example, if it's someone that is working on the production line in a manufacturing company, compare, for example, to someone that is working in tech innovation. Of course, they tend to be actually, more towards the path of the co-creation. But again, it's got to be treated as a change management initiative in terms of cultural and mindset shift.
So you mean that this and just a clarification: Copilot is not the tool of Microsoft. Huh? It's just
No, correct. Yeah,
so
good
we
point.
have to avoid for that. So one important thing that you have highlighted is about it depends on the company. If it's a tech managers intake are more, as you said, early adopters. So they need, to take AI tools as a partner, as a pilot, a co-pilot, as you said. And again, it depends on I think also what about the generation, impact of these things? Do you think that Gen Z is more about, using this kind of tool more often than, someone that is, in other generation, or it's not impact for you based on your experience?
Based on my experience, yes, because those are digital natives. They actually, also millennials, let's say, they are literally more fluent. So for them, it's normal to actually use AI. But maybe for people that are the MTV generation like me, at first, myself as well, when AI came out, I was literally just using AI to ask short questions.
Yeah.
It took time to actually get to realize what AI can do. So
Mm.
I do believe that there are lots of managers that do understand that there is potential when it comes to AI, but it's still not clear what AI can do. I've actually worked with some organizations that are literally doing training internally to managers, again, but it's mostly to enhance their productivity. So they are still actually focusing on the co-pilot bit. So AI to help you freeing some time so that you can focus on strategy. But it's actually where the additional element is okay, I free some time, but I can still leverage AI to actually help problem solving. And I think that, let's say, generations that are basically a little bit, let's say, like me, I'm in my 50s, they are actually struggling with this next step.
Can I just cut in there?
Yeah.
Because my leadership style is probably slightly different to most people. I'm a firm believer if somebody in my team came up to me with an idea that I felt would add value, why would I then lead that change process? Because the idea is not in my head, it's in their head. So I've always tended with my people to let them take the lead and for me to provide the support to them. I'm just wondering if how AI would sort of settle into that sort of leadership style.
It's again, AI can be leveraged in order to test this idea. So, for example, the person comes up with the idea and they can actually use AI in order to test it. So, is it sound? Playing the devil's advocate, looking at objections, so that when the person comes to you as a leader and they are basically presenting this idea, they have already looked at different angles, and AI gives basically the advantage that it provides angles that basically challenge our way of thinking and sometimes also our bias. So basically, it's the co-creation with AI, so that they come to you with an idea that has been already probed, and they can actually create a case that is much more solid and sound.
Oh, that's great. That's what I was looking for.
Thank
Thank
you.
you.
Thank you, George. Let's discuss about staying, about manager. And one of the research that I have shared, from Josh Bersin company, that's very insightful as well, is about super worker and what he called them super managers. So this slide shows the widening gap between traditional managers and what they call super manager. Traditional managers have been trained to supervise, to keep things steady and predictable. But as technology accelerates, with this graph, we can see that accelerate opportunities and innovation multiply, an approach simply can't case. Super manager, on the other hand, just don't just supervise, they innovate, they transform, they adapt on the speed of technology, and they close the productivity and skills gap by embracing change, leveraging AI, guiding their teams through uncertainty using AI. In short, while traditional manager climbs slowly, super manager ride the wave of innovation and help the organization thrive. Isabella, the idea of super manager, are you personally, uh, agree with this, term? Or what do you think about this research? And do you call the manager such manager that you explained just before that they need to be a co-pilot, they are using co-pilot, the co-piloting AI, are there also a super manager or not? What do you think about that?
Yeah, I do think that there are super managers in the sense that there are people that are literally leveraging AI in problem solving. They are leveraging AI also in being better leaders, because AI can also be used in order, for example, to create a higher performing team. It can also be used to provide feedback to the managers about their leadership style. So
Mm,
I do think that there are individuals that can be deemed as super managers, but again, it tends to be, let's say, the upper quartile, let's put it this way,
mm,
because most managers are still managing in the, put in bracket, old way. But then again, that's because of the culture of the organization. Because if there is training that is provided within the organization, but the training is still around the manager as the coordinator and not as the orchestrator of how AI can interact with humans, that's why basically we are still following the old paradigm. Whilst if companies are actually fostering this new way of manager as an orchestrator and not as a coordinator, that's where you get the big difference. Of course, there are managers that, regardless of the culture of the organization, do actually take on the role of innovator, and they are actually orchestrating this a link between human and AI. But let's say that for the time being, they are not the majority, still actually a small minority.
Absolutely, and that's why, my thought is about we are discussing about AI, about usage of AI, about managing AI agents. As you see, the worker manage AI agents, but how many percentage of the companies, etc., they have such capabilities that manager are managing AI agents? What's maybe less than 1%? Maybe only the top tech companies, they have such capabilities, but 99% of companies, they are not at this stage. They don't have super manager. Personally, I don't call myself as a super manager. So that's the gap between the result of the research that they are showing and the reality of companies and the reality of the leaders. What do you think about that, and based on your experience with the companies, do you agree?
I agree definitely with you, but I also think that now there is a gap between how people can basically sort of deal with change at this crazy pace, because it's actually ongoing,
Mm,
and how the change basically is going faster and faster and faster, because as human beings we have a finite level of energy and resources, so we can process change basically at a much slower pace compared to the speed of change. So if we just look at the past, say, 5 years, and the trends that we had. So, for example, we had Agile first. Then Agile, was not trendy anymore, and we had, for example, sustainability. Then it was diversity and inclusion. Then we had metaverse that didn't last that long, and now we got AI. So it's also, as a manager, thinking, "But is it worth it? Because maybe next year there is going to be another trend." And also, they are literally swamped but the change that is happening in the organization, implementation of a new ERP, what is going on in the world, globalization, political, constraints. And as a manager, I mean, what I am seeing is that people are genuinely struggling with change, regardless of whether it is AI or not. So there is a massive saturation. And unless there is a really solid case of why, as a manager, I'm already working maybe something like 12 hours a day, I should set aside some time to try out AI, knowing that, yeah, I learned how to use, for example, ChatGPT 5.0, but then, in next year, maybe a new kid on the block is going to come in and is going to make things, let's say, a little bit on the oldish style. So when I talk to manager, I also tend to, interact with them. And one of their question mark is, but is it really worth it?
I think part of the problem there is when we talk about change and we talk about the future, what's happened in the past, will only tell you where you are now. It won't tell you where you're going to be in the future. And that means that you're going to come up against discontinuity. So you're not going to be able to use what's used in the past to then look at the future. And I think part of the problem is that a lot of people in leadership, they don't like the idea of discontinuity. And I think maybe we need a more agile mindset. I mean, Nicholas, you put a piece on yesterday talking about Gen Z. And I wonder if, in fact, Gen Z are in a better position than somebody of my age to actually have that agile mindset.
Yeah, no, absolutely thoughtful. And we'll discuss, by the way, George, you put a great point about Gen Z next week with a professor of university. We'll discuss about Gen Z, next week. And she has published an amazing article in Wall Street Journal. And I really recommend everyone, to assist next week as well. But one point that's you're totally right, George, about this point. About AI and how leadership has changed, with AI is very important. How leaders, as a leaders, we are discussing about learning. 2 weeks back, 3 weeks back, about learning, about flow of work, right? The flow of work of learning. I think the AI should be as same as learning. It should be in the flow of work. You use AI and we didn't notice that we are using AI. Some of managers, we have so many tools in the work, etc. We are using, and sometimes we are using AI, but we never think about, oh my god, this is AI, this summarizing, some there is an amazing capabilities of Microsoft in order to use uh, summarizing or etc. For email, for chat, etc. We are using already AI. We don't need a separate tool for that. So I guess AI is coming in our area for me as a manager, and a lot of managers are also in the call. Uh, and we need to use AI in order for what? And I like, what Dave is saying is about impact on the business, right? So the only things is that we need to have for stakeholder value for the business, for add value for them, and also for the team, for engagement, to the team engagement, to keep engagement, and not to manage just AI. And what do you think, Isabella, about AI agents? Do you think that this super manager, what we call, or this co-pilot, do you think one day managers will manage AI employees as well, AI agents? They are already there. Is it the role of the managers?
Yeah, I think that again, as it will become more mainstream, so we will get a new generation entering the job market. It's like, for example, when email was introduced, lots of people were resisting it. It's like when it or let's go with back in the days, when the PC was introduced and people were like, oh my gosh, this is gonna take my job.
Yeah.
I actually think that as we go on, it will become more mainstream, so also people will start basically understanding what is the actual power of AI. No, it's not there to actually get your job. Some jobs will be automated, but in let's say more like probably white collars, is actually going to help you freeing up some time so that it's possible to focus on what is strategic. It's a mindset shift, and as we were saying earlier, it's going to take some time. But I do think that what companies can do is actually, again, support this change in a more structured way so that people can start dipping their toe and see basically what is the actual positive element for them. But I do believe that as many changes that have been introduced in the past, there is going to be a normal resistance, but then it will become basically the norm. Also because sounds a little bit awful what I'm going to say, but if people want to thrive, they will actually have to change. Otherwise, the organization is going to work in a new way, and who does not basically follow the new way of working of the organization, unfortunately, they will cut themselves out.
And that's the news that we just discussed last week. You remember, George, about Accenture teams. Accenture has a layoff, some thousands of employees around that they didn't, follow the AI trends. They have not this AI. Um, maybe the manager needs to have in their, leadership training how to manage AI, how to be trained with AI personally and also with their teams, because the manager role for me is also okay to manage day-to-day activity as a manager, but also to empower and train my team. So if I'm using AI, I need also to others in my team also to use AI. So it's a kind of learning daily learning for them, to managers, to train their teams. And you are absolutely right. If so, and it's important what you are saying, that if we didn't, adopt, and I use your word, adopt AI, maybe in the future they will not be have the requirement to be a manager of the future. That's very important, very inspiring.
Yeah, I absolutely agree. And one of the things that I'm also noticing is that sometimes there is a stigma. I was actually talking to a client, and basically, sometimes they said people come to me saying, "Oh, I've done this," and he asked, "Have you used AI?" And they are sort of like, "Oh gosh, yeah," and it's like, "Okay, great, fine," because there is still this stigma of AI did your job, but again, if it's done properly, so bearing in mind that we need to double check, we are accountable for the result. AI can hallucinate because again, it's based on statistic and probability.
Yeah.
But if also the manager actually, instead of saying, how dare you using AI doing this activity, they go, fantastic. Have you checked? Everything is fine. Great. So it's also the manager doing this micro, let's say, um, putting these micro seeds that
Mm.
is actually telling people using AI is okay, as long, of course, as people do it within a framework of double checking and not relying basically only on AI doing their job because it's quicker and it's faster. But I do think that managers can do a lot, but they need again to change their mindset in saying, if my basically team is using AI properly, is fantastic. Is not actually detrimental to the quality of the job.
Absolutely. Absolutely. I'm coming back to this slide that you provide me about co-pilot and co-thinker. I really like, this word of co-thinker, because it's a kind of, you are, and what I like very like is sometimes ago I shared the research about AI, and some researchers, highlighted that what's the AI view of AI for the people, and they said is like a co-thinker. There is a there is a friend that help you in the work, to think about better way, some solution, to give you some solution. So in a way, what you are saying, co-thinker, is that this partnership between AI and manager. So the manager can use AI, and maybe we need to put some limitation about the decision making, because if manager, tomorrow you go, what do you think about this, this team member, ask them, based upon just about the output, what is, what do you think AI about these employees and impact on their compensation, etc. You see this risk of, um, red line can be across with this AI manager. Some manager, I don't say all, but some manager.
Absolutely, yes. And I think that that's important point of the fact that the manager still has to be accountable. So AI can be a partner, someone, put someone in brackets, so we can talk to, but it's also providing context. Because sometimes people ask, I got this team member, it's called Joe Blogs. What do you think about it?
Hmm.
There is no context. So it's thinking about as if I'm talking to another, let's say, colleague. I need to provide them context. Job logs, for example, have been with the organization for 2 years. We are going through a lot of period of change, and maybe this person is struggling in this area, but is very good, for example, in the other area. And I am looking at ways to involve job logs more. Well, it's a completely different thing of asking, what do you think AI about your blogs, or giving the context. AI will come back with some ideas, but then again, it's keep on prompting. It's not like, oh, AI says this, fantastic, that's the way I have to go. It's actually, say, oh, Joe Blogs, for example, is lazy. I'm just making it up. He's not taking, okay, then Joe Blogs is lazy. Why do you think this is the case? And what are the ways that we can actually look at positives? So think as a coach. So asking questions and basically getting a dialogue is not basically talking to the oracle that knows everything. No. Again, we need to prompt and we need basically to ask questions and not thinking that a couple of words in AI are going to provide us the solution. No, that's not the way that it works.
Yeah, we shouldn't, train, and that's important. What you are saying, Isabella, is we need, to have a guidance, user guide for each leaders, to tell them, as you mentioned in this slide, I like that, stay accountable. Very important, stay accountable, because sometimes, some manager needs to take important decision. They shouldn't rely only on AI. And the future manager won't manage AI, they will coach with it. Yeah, it's a coach I like, but in the end, so the manager that you're using AI, they are, take not taking decision of AI, but the responsibility, and that's very important. The responsibility of the manager decision is himself, is not AI. Even he's using AI as a coach, as a co-thinker, as you said, brilliantly explained. But accountability, that's very important for me, is the manager, is the leadership, how we define leadership. And I'm sure 100%, 99% of the manager, they are not, have enough. And George is, highlighting a lot of, comments about that. They don't have the training that is required for the manager. Development is not required, to get be aware that they are accountable for their decision using AI. They are not trained with AI, and that's the lack of training leadership. It's another issue, another
Yes.
topic as well. But it's very important that, to highlight that they need the guidance. Do you agree?
I absolutely agree. And I think that a must is don't delegate. Because otherwise, if the manager delegates to AI, AI is the manager. And again, I'm going to be probably a little bit blunt. If AI can do your job, what do you do then as a manager? Because you are delegating basically your decision process and you're delegating your job to technology. But that's not the point. AI can, I mean, at least not now, cannot take the place of a manager because there is all the elements around emotional intelligence. There is all the element around um, understanding how to interact with the team. So it's a partner, absolutely yes. Co-creator, absolutely yes. But then at the end of the day, it's for the manager to make the decision. Okay, these are additional elements that maybe I have not thought about. Based on this information, this is my decision. That's why people are supposed to be managers and leaders. So this orchestrator of how AI and the human element can work together. It's not
Absolutely.
AI that decides. If AI decides, I will be like, are you actually a manager? And
Yeah.
to be blunt, do we really need you in this place if I can replace you with AI?
Absolutely, very inspiring, answer. And that was my question to you. Just wanted you answer perfectly. Can one day can see a AI becoming a manager, and that's that's the point because employees fear about being replaced by AI. So AI can become not an employee, but can do the task of employees a lot of things. As you brilliantly explained, there is this emotional intelligence, all of this that can be a barrier, to AI to becoming a manager first, right? But do you think that is impossible in the future to don't me as an employee don't have an AI as a manager? Do you think that is absolutely impossible, or maybe in the future with the trend of AI, that's it's amazing, how the evolution is going. One day, a person can have an AI manager. What do you think about that? It's interesting, to ask you that.
Yeah, I'm not basically someone that has got experience on, research on AI. And if I look at what happened over the past, let's say, 20 years, what we are seeing nowadays, it was unthinkable 20 years ago.
Yeah.
So I think that in the future, again, based on my idea, so purely subjective, I do believe that we will get to a point where machines will be able at least to recognize emotions. Feeling emotions, to be honest, I don't know. And I think that that's actually the difference because they already now can detect movement in the eyes, in the voice, and again they get programmed to say if someone is got the tone of the voice like this, maybe it's because they are upset. But one thing is recognizing, let's say, in a more pragmatic way, this person, for example, is crying equal upset. One thing is, oh wow, I am feeling that this person is upset. I don't know whether AI will be able to feel in the future. This, to be honest, is
No
something
one.
that I
No one.
don't know.
Absolutely, absolutely. No, very. But the reality is that the technology is growing, the research is growing. So we don't know if one day we will achieve this step that AI be become a manager. But uh, the progress is going very very fast. Thank you so much for your highlighting this important information. I would like the another research that I have just uh, shared maybe last week is about one phenomenon that is impacting a lot of employees. Not about AI, nowadays, but it was an old trend is about isolation. This slide reveals a striking reality that nearly half of employees report feeling isolated at work. In fact, the data shows a worrying increase in those who say that they feel lonely. Most or all the time they are feeling isolated. Even they are in the office or not. There is a overall trend that there is a growing sense of disconnection in the workplace. This matters because isolation, as you know, isn't just about individual well-being, it directly impacts the collaboration, engagement, performance. In the era of hybrid work or tech augmented work, the challenge for leaders, for these people that are leading the companies, is just no longer just managing tasks, but about creating this connection, this psychological safety, right? So, Isabella, given that we are discussing about AI, is about so many employees are struggling with isolation, how can managers step into this new role of AI coach and human connector using technology?
Well, again, if they go to from the role of co-pilot to the role of co-thinker, actually AI can be leveraged to create more psychological safety. Of course, there is all the topic around culture, but let's actually go for practicality. And again, it's possible to ask AI genuinely. This is the situation that I'm dealing with when it comes to my team. This is, for example, my style. There are people maybe that voiced some concerns about, voicing their dissent, etc. What can we do? And again, as we were saying earlier, is actually prompting AI. And it's also for the manager to ask AI basically to help them in self-reflection, which I think that is one of the most important elements for the manager. So he's saying, what am I doing as a manager in order to promote collaboration in my team? Because if I am the first one that actually comes in and I go my office and I lock myself in and people basically cannot access me, I am actually being isolated myself. So it's also the good old being a role model. I am finding, great the fact that we are talking from 3 different countries, which is fantastic. But when working on a day-to-day basis, I do believe that, again, managers have to promote a way of collaborating. But also, sometimes yes, it's more expensive, but promote also a way for people to meet physically. Whether it is, twice a year, etc. Is always thinking about what is the cost of getting people unhappy or isolated in the job. They may actually burn out, they may actually go off sick. So let's create some moments, also physical moments, that can actually foster the real collaboration. So I think that, again, the manager here is going back to the good old emotional intelligence and start thinking, what kind of example am I giving to my people? Am I actually isolating myself? Am I actually listening to my team? What is my basically leadership style? And that's where AI can help doing self-reflection. But then the important thing is how am I going to support my people in working together, whether they are in the same office, because yes, it does happen. I work on the 3rd floor and I don't talk to the people on the 4th floor. How come? Or whether they are working in different offices or actually in different countries with different cultures, because also the cultural element is something to be taken into consideration.
Absolutely.
Yeah. That actually picks up on something that Forbes actually wrote recently in a research project, because they found 43% of Gen Zs were saying that they felt isolated when working remotely, but then they found that there were a lot of Gen Zs, more than 43%, that were basically saying, we're not receiving the induction training we need, we're not receiving, we're not able to make those professional contacts that we need to further our career. Gen Z are very much about development, but if they're losing the development that they would normally pick up in the workplace by listening, watching, then you're going to lose them, because they're just going to say, do you know what, if you're not developing us, we'll move on to somebody that will. So I totally agree with Isabella. There is a need to bring people together to share learning that they've picked up, even working remotely, and putting that into context. I think it's very important. Isabella, I think you're spot on.
Thank you. And actually, one of the things actually taking from your thought is one of the things that some companies are doing. So, for example, the junior levels, they are substituting them with AI, which I think that is very short-sighted, in all honesty, because if they do not create the next generation, how am I gonna go from someone with, fresh out of uni or fresh out of a master, etc., to have the chance to put my knowledge and test it in the real world? It's not that someone is going to be a quantum leap from uni to senior. There is actually this step. So again, I think that is short-sighted in the sense that it's a very it's just linked to cost in terms of I don't have to pay these people's salary. Yes, but you will actually see the consequences for maybe in 5 or 10 years when you will struggle as an organization to get the next generation because you didn't spend the time and the money to train them up and actually to get them to the next level. So again, I think that this short-termism and this money at all costs, it's probably not a very, I would say, clever strategy, in all honesty.
Absolutely. Absolutely. Brilliant. Brilliant. Thank you, Isabella, for highlighting this important, and Georgia as well for this important point. Next slide, next research I have highlighted is about what is the key top success factors in AI solution. And one of the leaders that I have shared is in Bain and Company researchers that they have highlighted that two elements stand out above all is strong leadership support and cross-functional collaboration, both seated at near 60% of respondents. Close behind are clear use case, 51%, and investment in infrastructure, etc. And so about the third of organization emphasizes training employees on generative AI, so AI tools as well is important for them to equip people with the right skills and still lagging. The message is clear. Scaling AI isn't just about the tools, it requires vision from the leaders, from the managers, to have collaboration across silos and the ability to translate technology into meaningful human-centered use case, right? That's the conclusion of this research. Isabella, when you see that leadership, collaboration are rated at the top success factors, but employee training ranks much lower, what does it tell us about the role of manager must play as you have highlighted as the AI coaches?
Yeah, it's being the role model, and this is also in general in organizational changes, because this is fundamentally an organizational change and a cultural change. If I don't walk the talk as a manager, things are not going basically to go in a different direction. Because if I say to someone, yes, guys, AI is fantastic, we have to use it, we have to do this and that and the other, but then I am, as a manager, still acting in the old way, people are starting saying, hang on, but this is just fluff, because in the end, the manager is not walking the talk. So it's genuinely, as a manager, being engaged and really believing in this vision that we as managers have to live and breathe on a daily basis, because people are watching, and that's why, as you know, in also other cultural changes, it's very important that it's coming literally from the top leaders, from the CEO, from the leadership team, and then getting basically trickling down to managers that are really close to where the change is happening. Because I don't deal with the CEO maybe on a daily basis, but I do deal with my manager on a daily basis. And if they're saying AI is important and I can see that AI is all over the place in the company, I'm like, gosh, this change is real, rather than okay, it's a trend. Everyone is doing AI. We do it as well. But you know what? Behind closed doors, I keep on doing my things in the old way. So manager as real sponsors and basically walking the talk.
Brilliant. Brilliant. Thank you so much, Isabella.
Isabella, do you think that there is a need for um, managers to not only explain how the organization benefits from AI, but also how the individual can benefit as well, and maybe that pull everybody together in that sense?
Absolutely, George. I think it's a great point because sometimes what companies tend to do is to say that the change is happening, whilst we need to explain, first of all, why the change is happening. And in order to create the desire to change in an individual, it's what we call the what's in it for me. And sometimes people are like, yes, but what's in it for me? For the person is actually, they're learning new things and they might leave. And it's like, well, no, because if it's an organization, you train this person to become even better and you offer the environment where they can thrive, they're not going to leave. So it's what's in it for me, but it's got to be something tangible. So that one of the frustrations that I see people, with AI, but also other type of training is that people get trained, they spend 2 hours, 1 day, 3 days, etc. And then when they go back to the day-to-day work, they don't have the chance to actually implement what they've learned. So it's also what's in it for me, not just a theoretical level, but it's also on a practical level. So that when we talk about AI as a co-thinker, a co-creator, if I get trained and I understand what are the benefits for me and for the organization, then outside that training room, I can actually literally put in practice what I've learned. Because otherwise, again, it's not an investment because people are like, okay, I learned these things in 2 months. I completely forgot because I've not had the chance to use it.
Just one other thing I picked up on from the slide. I was pleased to see that cross-functional collaboration was so high, because when you make a change in one area of an organization, it often has a knock-on effect in other areas. So I think cross-functional collaboration is so important. But I wonder how many leaders actually pick up on that sometimes, because they'll see change as being beneficial to their department, their teams, and not necessarily see the wider effects of it. I don't know what you think towards that.
Again, I think that I do perfectly agree with you, and change comes from the top. And sometimes the innovators, so the managers that are like, okay, we want to be the drivers, can influence the senior leadership so they can actually go with a real case of this is actually what we have done and it worked. So we are the pilot. So it's also for the innovators within an organization to work at a case that can be implemented around the company overall. But again, they need to have solid data. So it's always thinking about in financial terms, because if I go to the CEO or the CFO, they think in financial terms, is test small, show base, get quick wins, and with the quick wins, go to the people at the higher levels that can be the real sponsors and show what are the opportunities. Also start small and say, we can extend this pilot, for example, to 2 other functions. And the case for this is A, B, C, and D. They actually stand a much better chance. They're going, we were successful, this worked in our world, now let's extend it worldwide to 30,000 people. So it can also start from a department or a function. But again, if they want to be the pilot, or if they want to be, let's say, the innovators, make a strong case of why and the company should invest in this new way of working and also make a strong case in financial terms.
Amazing. Amazing, Isabella. Thank you so much for answering all these questions. We are going to the last section of today is about HR news spotlight. This I have selected two news in order to discuss today. News number one is about ChatGPT and OpenAI, company that they have reached 700 million, so it's more 800 million based upon um, the OpenAI CEO Sam Altman said that the company has reached every weeks over 5 million big businesses are paying for it, and showing that how fast generative AI has moved from experimentation to becoming a mainstream workplace tool. It's amazing. These figures are amazing. And Isabella, with AI adoption accelerating space so heavily, what do you see as the biggest opportunity for managers as this quoting here, co-pilot, as you mentioned, not just to adopt, but to redefine themselves as a leader who can guide people through this transformation with clarity and confidence?
Um, I think that there are a couple of ways. So, as we spoke earlier, is to be the role model and to actually encourage the adoption and use of AI, again, within certain boundaries of do not delegate, but actually use AI as a companion. And
Mm.
it's actually also they could create a micro project within their team. So again, is asking people how can we actually get the best out of AI. So is involving their team in co-creating a solution, adopting and using AI. So it's something that can come from the manager and being the role model on one side, and on the other side is actually asking people in their team, okay, guys, how can AI really help us? Being more productive, actually getting to the next level, and managing basically that as an internal project within, for example, their function.
Absolutely. Thank you so much, Isabella. And news number two that I have selected is another company that they have uh, showed that the rise of artificial intelligence is making many traditional college degrees feel out of date. Experts warn that unless professionals actively upskill in AI, they risk falling behind the job market. This message is clear. Lifelong learning, that was, my last week title, uh, is no longer optional, is essential. Um, Isabella, for you, when you see this kind of title and based on your experience, um, and this is linked absolutely with the topic of today about the usage of managers. If AI is reshaping the value of formal education so quickly, what role do you see manager playing as AI coach to help their teams continuously learning, adapting, stay relevant in the new world of work?
Yeah, I think again that is the role of the manager is to show that AI is not the enemy. AI is actually an ally, and I always smile when I see these titles. Because I think that what sometimes is not taken into consideration that the degree is not just learning information, is also learning problem solving, is learning collaboration when doing, projects with other students. So there is much more than information and the ability of processing the information fast. And that's where basically there is the added value of the individual. So, for example, fostering emotional intelligence, how to become better, for example, a better team worker. So I think that managers have to focus on what is the added value, at least now, as being a human being working with AI and not against AI.
Inspiring.
I have another question. I mean, you were talking there about chat AI doing away with university degrees, and I totally agree with you, Isabella, about the fact there are human factors there as well that need to be taken into account. I think what worries me, and I'd like your thoughts on this, is the fact that chat AI can also introduce bias because it's being written by other people that will have their own thoughts on the subject. And you know, how do we distinguish bias when using chat AI?
Well, actually, that's a great point, and it's not easy. I was talking to someone, and they said, "Oh, I use AI as a therapist," and I'm like, "Oh, this is really interesting." And the person was like, "Yes, I keep on prompting up to well, AI gives me the answer that I want." And it's like, well, that's actually not how, for example, therapy works. So I think that again, here is the accountability of the individual. And that's where actually, for example, having a formal education, usually it's, you have to, for example, I got a degree in law. And for me, it's normal to check the source. I need to go and check if this information is actually correct or if it was taken, for example, from Wikipedia. And that's basically the role of accountability and also the role of a manager in questioning. But where did you get this information? Have you actually checked whether it is something reliable? For example, the Wall Street Journal was mentioned, clearly a reliable source. Or if it's coming from AI out of the blue and it was taken from Wikipedia, anyone can go and basically update Wikipedia. So the accountability and not delegating, again, comes back as an element to be careful, not to rely on what AI is saying, because AI can actually make mistakes and that can be biased as well.
Brilliant. Brilliant, Isabella. Thank you so much. Before we close, Isabella, I love to invite you to share one final thought. And I'm asking with George every week this question to our guests. What is your top recommendation to organization, to leaders that you read listening you today and also in the recording on YouTube page? What is your top recommendation regarding AI or any others topic that you would like?
Approach AI with curiosity, experiment with it, don't be scared of it. It can be a fantastic ally. And again, is inviting managers to go outside their comfort zone and play with it. And they can also invest in courses or they can also invest in additional knowledge outside the organization. Do it also for you.
Thank you so much. Brilliant advice. Brilliant advice. Thank you so much, Isabella. It was amazing, amazing. 1 hour with you. AI is no longer a nice to have, a strategic necessity for employees and for managers. George, final thoughts?
As usual, I've got a lot of takeaways from this that I can go and think about. It's been absolutely brilliant. Thank you very much, Isabella.
Well, thank you for having me, and
It's been
thank
very
you also.
thought-provoking.
Yeah, thank you so much, Isabella, for joining us today. All of you joining us today as well in this live. And there was not so much, question. So George has asked himself his question today. It was good. But everyone who joined us, thank you for energy. Launch and Learn community is coming, growing day after day, week after week. This replay will be available on the YouTube page, channel, and I will, share after this live. Feel free to share it with your colleagues to join us as well in live. Until next week, it's amazing. Also, next week, Lunch and Learn about Gen Z. That is amazing. Will have, Lucia will join us to discuss about Gen Z. Until next week, keep learning with humanity. See you next week. Happy and fantastic weekend. Take care of yourself. Thank you.
Thank you so much.